Yukon at 647-5626 or in Dededo, 633-4473. Family Finance, serving the people of Guam since 1959.
Here at APL, our core values give the company its heart and soul. Whether it's connecting your business with our global network through our newly enhanced service or investing our efforts into giving back to the community, APL is committed to serving you. We humbly honor the opportunity to find innovative solutions for you and your business. To learn more about our enhanced service, call 588-4651 or visit www.apl.com/Guam for more details.
Welcome to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, the only show on talk radio where common sense is a lot more common. Phone lines are now open at 888-TALK. That's 888-8255. And now, The Point proudly brings you Tall Tales with Senator Bob Klitzkie. And now, sitting in for the vacationing Bob Klitzkie, here's Daryl Taggarty.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Good afternoon and welcome to Tall Tales for Friday, March 1st. I'm Daryl Taggarty, sitting in for the vacationing Bob Klitzkie, who will be back in 6 days. And these are 6 calendar days. And so we look forward to his return, but we also look forward to your phone call this afternoon at 888-8255 here on Tall Tales. What's on your mind? What's going on in your neck of the woods, or you're part of the village, or you're going on your street? What concerns you? Let's talk about it here on Tall Tales. We'll be taking a look at the editorials from today, and there's a couple questions to ponder and a couple of thought-provoking letters to the editor, in fact. And so taking a look at, and I've been doing some reflecting on the news of the past week, and perhaps we can talk about that as well. If you want to talk about the president's trip to Vietnam, I'm game, but I don't have any particular knowledge besides what we read in the papers, unless you're talking about what we thought about it beforehand anyway. But no peace treaty signed. No, what did we expect? Boeing did get a multi-billion-dollar contract for for supplying a couple of airlines in Vietnam. So we got that. And I guess, or maybe they were going to do it anyway, and they just used the occasion of the visit to announce it. But whatever it is, we'll take our wins when we get them, right? But producing wins is another matter. And I turn my phone line down so I can concentrate just on you. And let's see. Okay, I can hear myself better there. Taking a look at, let's see. What do we have here for today's? I'm trying to pull you guys up on my screen so I can see you and take a look at your comments. And on the Facebook page, there we go. I see me. I see. Yes, and I see your comments. Thank you very much for joining me this afternoon here on Tall Tales. Don't have anything for Second Amendment today, but I'll be taking a look for any movement on that front over the weekend, and we'll bring you something on Monday. Also, one of these days I'll get down to GPD, and I'll refresh what I've already picked up as far as the application process for getting a gun permit here on Guam and review the law. So we can cover that next week. Let's go right into Zami Katni. Okay, we got two. Guam Daily Post is talking about beware of online game that encourages self-harm among kids. And then PDN is saying that Gov Guam's financial woes can't be ignored. Let's go ahead and start with the Post and their their warnings to beware of online game that encourages self-harm among kids. If you're a parent, grandparent, or guardian of young children and you haven't heard of the Momo Challenge or Momo game, we urge you to consider searching online to learn what this is about. Knowing what this is will help prepare you to insulate minors, especially very young children under your care, from the possible emotional distress from disturbing images and instructions this so-called game could have on young, impressionable kids. In a worst-case scenario, this, quote, game could encourage a child to self-harm. Alarm bells are sounding from different parts of the world, including from police in the United Kingdom and some school districts in the U.S. mainland. At least 2 Colorado school districts have sent out notices warning parents regarding the Momo Challenge, CBS Denver reported. And let's see. This so-called game, police in the United Kingdom warn, involves messages hidden in what first appears as child-friendly games and videos. The messages draw children to contact Momo via Snapchat, WhatsApp, or other messaging platforms. A child is then exposed to a scary ghost-like image of Momo, instructing someone to self-harm. A participant will be asked to show a photo of the harm he or she took to continue the game. The game could include a threat that the child's family could be cursed if the instructions are not followed. Ultimately, the game ends with a participant instructed to take his or her life and record it for social media, police in the United Kingdom warned. The Momo game or Momo Challenge gained international recognition last summer and was initially considered a hoax, quickly becoming a widespread meme. CBS News reported Thursday it has resurfaced. In August 2018, law enforcement investigated the influence of Momo on the death of a 12-year-old in Argentina, worrying parents globally on the potentially real dangers of the challenge, CBS News reported. This Momo scheme features an image of a doll with large eyes and long black hair. Quote, a huge number of children are being exposed to suggestions about how to kill yourself. Douglas Goldsmith, a licensed child psychologist, told CBS affiliate KUTV. These days, technology has allowed social messaging programs to reach our young children in places where grown-ups may not always be able to monitor them. A young child in his or her bedroom on Guam could be reached in the middle of the night when no adult is watching through a video game connected to the outside world via the internet. Today's youth have gained the benefits of unlimited learning resources online, but with the good comes some bad influences, and this latest threat isn't something that can be kept out of homes by locking our doors. Vigilance is key for parents and guardians, and knowing what's out there will help adults to take steps to filter the bad content online and keep children safe. This is a great editorial, a great use of editorial voice to not just report a story, but to put a big magnifying glass on it for people to pay attention and not just skip over something that has to do with, it's just kids' games. What do I need to know about that for? So thank you very much, Guam Daily Post, for your editorial today. Let's take a look at Pacific Daily News. GovGuam financial woes can't be ignored. For years, Guam officials have begged and pleaded with the federal government to increase the amount of Medicaid funding. That finally happened. Guam received additional funding of $268 million to help alleviate Medicaid costs. Just one teensy problem. Guam Governor Leon Guerrero told the full U.S. Senate Committee on Energy and Natural Resources that the island can't afford to match the federal funds. If it still can't do so by the end of the fiscal year on September 30, Guam will lose out on the sorely needed funding. Leon Guerrero asked for an extension of the deadline. But even if an extension is granted, elected officials will still need at some point to come up with the matching funds. Where does the governor, or any other elected official for that matter, think the money will come from? Do they actually think Congress will make up the shortfall? Or that the federal government would simply and willingly waive the matching funds requirement? Not only can the government of Guam not afford to pay its full share of the Medicaid program, but the new administration hasn't yet offered any clue to how it will meet a slew of promises that require funding. And then they list them. Bolstering staffing at public safety agencies, notably at the Guam Police Department, repaying $3.8 million that was inappropriately taken from the E911 fund, following the Guam law that requires the government set aside 24.6% of income tax revenue, and put it in a dedicated account to be used to pay tax refunds, and providing treatment to inmates and detainees at the Department of Corrections infected with hepatitis C. The harsh reality is that the government of Guam operates in a near constant state of financial distress. This has resulted in multiple borrowing measures that have increased GovGuam debt, as well as numerable tax increases that have hit hardest those on Guam that can least afford to bear them. When will elected officials recognize reality and start taking real and significant steps to address the problem instead of pretending all is well? Now that is a bullseye. I love that. I am just totally impressed, and it's tell it like it is, because yes, we keep hearing things, you know, press releases and public statements, but then when you put those side by side by the real issues that the same people are grappling with, the numbers don't add up. And as we addressed a couple days ago, where's the plan? The governor went to the states and went and sat down with the rating agencies, Moody's and Standard & Poor's, to lay out her philosophy and her plans for the government. But she hasn't done it here. And yes, she's got to, you know, exercise leadership to make this happen. I'm not saying that she isn't going to be able to accomplish it. I'm optimistic. I think she can. I think she has the mandate from her recent election, plus the cooperation and assistance of a majority in the legislature from the same party to drive a legislative agenda, including plans for the budget next year, including immediate measures to cut the cost of the government of Guam, of non-priority items. We're just waiting for it to start, because we know that this is going to take some time. And we know there are notices involved. We know that it has to be explained to some people. We're no longer going to fund this. We're going to fund that. And some of those are personnel matters. And those personnel, because there's no other place to cut. And some of those personnel matters take some time to do. It's complex, but there are people who have been paid for years, ongoing basis, to stay on top of these aspects of running the government of Guam. Ayade, I'm going to get my pen. Dead air. Those of you watching on Facebook Live just saw me walk away from the microphone and now wave around the blue pen, where the one that affixes the star to the editorial or editorials that deserve a star. And so for Zami Katni today, I'm going to issue 2 stars, 1 to each. I know you can do this. I know that the editorial boards of the Pacific Daily News and the Guam Daily Post can do this. Every day you can do this. And I expect you to do this every day. Think through the problems and then propose, if not a smart solution, at least a assistance for the readers on how to wrap their heads around it. today. Or even say we're going to keep an eye on it for a while. You know, I mean, none of this stuff is going to happen overnight. And the PDN is right, you know. Can't be ignored. We need to see some movement. And there is no magic number of days, 100 days, or, you know, wait until people are confirmed or stuff like that. Nah, that's all just process. Even the transition report didn't come out until the 7th of February. Well, that's a whole 90 days after the election. And judging from the comments of Dr. Laura Souter-Betance, it hasn't even been adopted by the governor yet. So there's no direction being given to the directors, acting or not, boards, carryover boards, as far as what the plan is. And it's not 60 days from the swearing in or 55 days or whatever. Because the election, on the day that the results of the election were known, was when our current set of elected leaders started the work of looking at the priorities. Maybe they're not looking at priorities. Maybe they're looking at the next election already. Prove me wrong. Yeah. Is that why you tuned in this afternoon? To listen to me or to listen to your friends and neighbors? Call in at 888-8255 or go online. And let me see what we've got for... Oh, there we are. Okay. Tito Guay is with us on Facebook Live. He says, whatever happened, former Governor Felix Camacho changed the name of Guam to Guahan. It became law, still Guam. Chamorro Celebration Month. That's a good thing to talk about. Even Hagåtña, but then Agana Heights, right? Or East Agana. You know, what's that? What's with that? I'm glad we have Adelup and Aniguac, but, you know, Hagåtña is a whole, you know, other matter. Well, thank you, Tito Guay, on that. And you're right. We're going to be talking about this. We will be with you on Holiday Monday, Chamorro Heritage Day. Yeah, pre-contact, you know, memories, cutting through that. But that's going to be Monday. And we can do this now. We actually, you know, live it every day. Those of us who have Chamorro blood, we have some connection with who our pre-contact forebears were. And some in our own way, we live that. But some of the things that we talk about here on Tall Tales have to do with how do we get along now? How do we get along now? So go ahead and give us a call here, 888-8255. We'll talk about that, or we'll, dig something else up here. I have a question to ponder, something for you to think about. Why not collect the EITC money that's being given back to, that's being distributed in tax refunds from people who have outstanding bills at the hospital? You know, I mean, isn't it money? Is it you don't want to touch it because somebody wants to spend it at the movies or paying down payment for a car? You want to be nice? Or do you want to run a hospital? I mean, you know, it's money, right? And it's not like it was money earned. It's money that the government of Guam is required to pay out. And I'm not saying wait until the feds give us the money so that we can pay it out. We're already going to have to pay it out in the tax refunds. It's what, $60 million or something like that? Even if you collect only from the people who are the responsible parties or the people who were patients who show up on a tax return. recover it. Find a way to do it. That's one thing to think about. And here's another one to think about. If Guam leaders want to rely on cheap foreign labor to keep home construction costs down for first-time homeowners, what are they doing? What else are they doing to keep construction costs down? How about raising incomes? Like the minimum wage. Generating higher paid jobs by letting foreign worker scarcity raise wages naturally for local workers. What about designing and fielding a mass transit system so creditworthiness doesn't get absorbed in multiple car loans per household? There's some things that sort of are extenders, they force multipliers, sometimes they're called. There's an editorial here, a letter to the editor that was in today's paper. And we'll go ahead and get this started. And we're going to take a break in a little bit here for John Gibson digging up history. But before, let's go ahead and get started on this. There's a letter to the editor that appeared today in the PDN by Richard Fee. We should be lining up to donate kidneys. And what is the price of a human life? If you have a friend or relative existing on kidney dialysis, it's $157,000 a month or $1,884,000 a year. That is what renal centers charge the federal government and health insurance companies to provide this highly technical and life-saving medical treatment. This does not include ambulance or special transportation to the centers. But are we only speaking about a few people? No, we are looking at over 900 people on Guam, with numbers growing daily due to the high incidence of diabetes, heart disease, and cancer. Dialysis means going to a special center 3 times a week for up to 4 hours each time. All of your blood is drained, cleaned, and returned, and it is painful and depressing. Yes, you are alive, but despite the caring dialysis nurses and technicians, there is the question of quality of life. The only way to eliminate this expensive and painful procedure is for the patient to receive a kidney transplant from a deceased or living donor. Most people who get their driver's license volunteer to become organ donors at death. Unlike other organs, such as a heart, people can actually volunteer to donate a kidney now. In such a close-knit community, you would think everyone is lining up to donate a kidney. Sadly, since we don't have the medical facility to do transplants on island, arranging one involves a lot of off-island coordination with transplant centers in Manila, Hawaii, or Los Angeles. The federal government and insurance companies encourage transplants. Why? $1.8 million a year on dialysis, or a one-time $60,000 surgery in Manila, or $400,000 surgery in the United States. The federal Medicare program is a primary insurer for end-stage renal disease dialysis and transplants. There are many private agencies who will assist living donors in travel and living expenses. Even one of our Guam-based airlines, United, provides mileage airfares for the donor and their care provider. Yes, this is personal in my case. I had never even thought about kidney transplants until suddenly I needed one. Due to a bout with another Guam plague, cancer, a few years ago, my kidneys began to fail, requiring life on dialysis. Life on a machine makes absolutely no sense when there are so many spare kidneys walking around. Right now, our renal centers are literally overwhelmed. We have at least 5 major renal centers with 20-plus chairs each, running up to 4 sessions 6 days a week. Add GMH and GRMC dialysis centers, which too often act as the emergency or starter dialysis centers for new folks like me. We're going to continue this letter to the editor by Richard Fee after we take a break here. And let's go ahead and listen to John Gibson digging up history.
John Gibson, Digging Up History. The frantic rush to bring life-saving medicine to sick kids led to how we all know you say mush to a dog. That story after this. Let's talk heirloom sheets and towels from Redland Cotton in Alabama. First, the family farm, growing the finest cotton in the world. The spinning, the looming, every step made in America, right down to the cutting and sewing. Sheets designed from a long-lost 1920s weave. The softest, most comfortable, longest-lasting sheets you've ever slept on. The Redland family, dedicated to America and linens you'll treasure. Check out redlandcotton.com for America's linen. redlandcotton.com. January 1925 in Alaska, word came that children in frozen Nome, Alaska, needed the serum for diphtheria. The serum was 700 miles away in Anchorage. No way to fly or take a boat. The governor ordered dog sleds to deliver the medicine. Telegraph messages set up 18 different dog teams along the route. They passed the medicine from team to team through blizzards, across frozen bays, over mountains to the sick kids. 127 hours after they started, the lead dog Balto led his team and his driver out of a long Alaska night in Nome with the medicine. And the life-saving mission lives on today. It's a yearly race along the same route we know as the Iditarod. I'm John Gibson, Digging Up History.
Every time I travel, there's something from home that I can't leave without. I take my Docomo Pacific Data to Go to share my stories in Taiwan, check subway routes in Tokyo, be my food guide in Hong Kong, meet new friends in the Philippines, make updates in the States, find my way around Korea, and check out all the cool shows in Singapore. It's the data I have in all the places I love for only $10 a day. Data to Go from Docomo Pacific. Better together.
And now, back to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, the one radio show politicians don't want you to listen to. Call now, 888-TALK. That's 888-8255. And now, sitting in for the vacationing Bob Klitzkie, here's Daryl Taggarty.
Yes, indeed. Before the break for John Gibson, Digging Up History, and to thank some of the folks who are supporting this Tall Tales program, we were reading the letter to the editor from the PDN today by Richard Fee, entitled, "We Should Be Lining Up to Donate Kidneys." So I got about halfway through. Let's continue. Let's see. I'll repeat the last paragraph and then we'll continue. Right now, our renal centers are literally overwhelmed. We have at least 5 major renal centers with 20-plus chairs each, running up to 4 sessions 6 days a week. Add GMH and GRMC dialysis centers, which too often act as the emergency or starter dialysis centers for new folks like me. That's 900 times $1,884,000, or $1.695 billion, being charged to Medicare and insurance companies each year. Wow, that's a lot of money. I don't know about the math, but that's what he's put in here. As a right-leaning conservative, it offends me that the American public is paying $1.7 billion a year for Guam dialysis alone when kidney transplant surgeries are a cure. Now, we always add the disclaimer that there are exceptions to the rule and not every transplant is successful. And this is not a plea to close our renal centers. They will always be needed with the growing population. Diabetes is definitely not declining. You would think that with so many people in need of kidney transplants, Guam Regional Medical City would see this as a specialty item worthy of adding to its repertoire of services. Honestly, there is more business here than for heart surgeries. We actually have excellent kidney transplant surgeons like Dr. V. Patero, who now has to go to Hawaii or Los Angeles to do the surgeries. I have not suggested GMH for the simple reason that recent newspaper reports indicated that they have closed 2 operating rooms due to lack of medication and equipment. I am not sure how you start a grassroots operation to make kidney transplants available on Guam, but I would certainly be the first one to sign up. We should be lining up to contribute a spare kidney to our relatives and friends. Richard Fee, Ph.D., is a retired judicial educator and retired associate professor of special education. Now, this is This is notable in that we're not talking about a solution by the government. We're talking about a solution by us, where we ourselves have the solution. If not in our hands, it's like riding around in our back. So if I had a brother or a child undergoing dialysis, one of my kidneys could be the one that she needs, right? And I know that of the 900 people he's talking about, not all of them are walking around like Richard Fee may be doing without an immediate relative in the same household. Now, maybe down the road, because of the prevalence of diabetes in families on Guam, those double kidneys are really needed. Maybe it's the high risk, even within the families, or borderline diabetes, or developing diabetes. And that's a personal, these are non-communicable diseases that are lifestyle diseases. And they even have genetic risk factors that are known. And there are ways to combat it and to reverse it and to avoid it and, But just think about how far along we are, that actually it could be done. It's possible to have transplants done right here on Guam and avoid having to incur the cost and the difficulties of going off island and staying in the medicine is available elsewhere, Manila or Hawaii and California, mainland centers where they do lots of transplants. But we could have the transplants done here by bringing in the doctors and having the suites set up so that they are, it is a procedure that's offered under the kinds of guidelines, medical guidelines that apply to transplants. Well, we couldn't do it without a hospital that's equipped for it. GMH is not preparing to do that, apparently. We may not have the funds available to expand in that direction. But GRMC does. And we just went through a bruising week talking about the pros and cons of supporting a private hospital on Guam with a fairly routine provision of health insurance for GovGuam employees. And a couple of media outlets trying to stoke a fire, along with a couple of investors in the healthcare industry on Guam, trying to stoke the fires of division rather than a rational spectrum of services to be available. And let the costs work themselves out later, because we're going to have to deal with this. We haven't even begun talking about dialysis, the cost of dialysis, and how that is impacting GovGuam's ability to support these patients, and also the insurance companies supporting these patients with their payouts. What impact that is having on our premiums. If we're going to start using dollars as a measure of rationing healthcare, use the market to ration healthcare, then why are we spending all this on dialysis and not on other kinds of treatment? I'm not saying that's even an appropriate measure, but that was the discussion last week. What we need, and this was the discussion when GRMC was being proposed to be brought in. We needed somebody to come in and provide the services. And then, if it made sense as a business matter, then the investors would put a hospital here. They would build the hospital, they would staff it, they would get it certified, and then they would run it. And it would just be another feature in healthcare system on Guam. And I recall us all thinking that this was a net positive for the island. But from the discussions last week, there are some people who are describing it as a net negative. Now, Richard Fee's letter to the editor talking about the possibility of doing transplants at GRMC. The possibility shows how far we've advanced. And so I want to thank Richard Fee for writing and revealing such personal medical information and proposing a non-policy solution. We've got a call on line 1. Let's go to the phones right now. Welcome to Tall Tales.
Hi, is that me, line 1?
That is you.
Well, happy Chamorro month.
Thank you. I feel happier already.
Well, I'm part Chamorro because I'm a member of the Chamorro Artists Association.
I saw your name listed there.
Honorary.
I saw your name listed there. So
good.
You're there.
That's why I'm calling, just to remind people that we do have our grand opening exhibit at the Outrigger Hotel lobby, and it's at 5:40. So it's a good idea to be there by 5:30 at the latest.
Why Why 5:40, Mo?
I don't run the thing, so that's what they tell me, and I'm going to be there because I got a couple of art pieces up, and somebody might just want to give me thousands of dollars for one, so I want to be there
of
for
course.
that event.
Yes.
But you asked the question, why 5:40? I think it's because they want you there at 5:30 to be ready at 5:40 when the great dancers and there are going to be speeches and free poo-poos and all that stuff. So, and you know how fast they go when they're donated by someone. So my recommendation is to try and be there by 5:30, so you're ready to go by 5:40.
Well, that's a good idea. Thank you, Mo, for that. I seem to recall that when I was reading the publicity on that, it may have been just the problem with the one I was reading, but it didn't seem very clear. I knew it was at the Outrigger, but I didn't really know what day it was. For some reason, it was sort of buried.
Oh, my goodness.
It was buried. The time and the date were buried. I saw the event.
Okay.
And I saw all the people who were participating, and then it seemed to lack a time and date. So I want to thank you and wish you luck. You know, you're
don't blame me for that. And I know you're on till 6, so you're probably going to miss the grand opening. But maybe you can still make the event later on, and hope to see you there.
I'd love to be there. I may have a logistical problem. My wife was telling me before I came down that she thinks the car she's driving is giving her a problem, and so we're sort of like making sure we don't get too far away from each other over the next couple of hours. But if the stars line up, we'll be down there. We'll be down there.
Of course, if you had let me know, I would have been happy to drive someone, but I have to be there at 5:40, so I'm certainly not going to be much help. But I would have tried.
Well, thank you.
And I really do hope that you can make it, and your wife. So if so, we'll see you there.
Thank you very much, Mo, for that reminder and for that invitation out to all the listeners of Tall Tales this afternoon.
And it is a month-long exhibit, so if you missed today, you can go and see it anytime, but you won't hear the great speeches and the wonderful dancing and singing, Chamorro music and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a good time it's a good time to go because it is the ceremony and the and the kickoff. And so if
Yeah,
you're in
the
the area,
kickoff.
it's a good.
Right.
It would be a good thing to go to see. Thank you again, Mo, for that,
Okay.
and have fun with it.
My pleasure.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Yeah, there's Mo. He's part of that artist association, and so that's the kickoff for Chamorro Heritage Month down at Outrigger Hotel, starting at 5:40 this afternoon. About an hour, a little under an hour from now. Yeah, good thing to know. Let's see. Got about 5 minutes here before our next break. Let's talk about gas prices increasing by 10 cents. I saw this article, but I think I saw that it says mobile gas price increased by 10 cents. But no, I saw it on the other stations too. I noticed that when I was driving around yesterday late afternoon. And so the article reads, Mobil has raised the price of unleaded gas to $4, up 10 cents from $3.90. The price increase comes after months of gas prices decreasing. In early January, the price of regular unleaded gas dropped to $3.90 after weeks of the prices going down. It was the 6th time gas prices declined in recent months, news files state. And then list down the drops. On Christmas Eve in 2018, the price of gas dropped to $4 a gallon. A week before that, the price dropped 10 cents a gallon from $4.23 to $4.13. After climbing to $4.52 per gallon in October, the price per gallon dropped to $4.43 on November 16, then $4.33 on November 22nd, and $4.23 on December 3rd. Typically, when one gas station on Guam raises or lowers prices, the others follow within a day or two. And what's so interesting is that they all happen to go to the same price mark. That's the part that's interesting. And they go within hours of each other. One starts and the others immediately change. Get out there and change their pump prices. Exactly the same amount. I know in previous editions of the national government, we had what was called an antitrust division, and my late brother used to work for a couple of the different gas fuels retailers on island at the terminal down in Cabras, and he was briefed repeatedly on the federal laws concerning antitrust, on what he was not allowed to do. And I don't see anyone looking into this. And it's not supposed to be local officials looking into it. It's supposed to be federal officials looking into it, federal law enforcement. But I guess it just doesn't rise to the level of importance for them, apparently, because it doesn't seem to get anybody's attention. So we're talking about, and let's take a look at this article again. So it was $4.52 per gallon in October, and it dropped to $3.90. That's 62 cents a gallon. And there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 price changes. Down from 60 cents, 62 cents variation going down and then back up. There were 6 steps. And for each of the gas stations to change their prices exactly the same and not try to compete by price, by even 2 or 3 cents difference, not right. Something's wrong here, but I guess they just don't smell it. I don't know. I guess they don't have the right sensors out or something. Anyway, let's take a break here and we'll come back in a couple of minutes with more Tall Tales.
Attention homeowners, if you don't have a solar energy system on your roof from Micronesia Renewable Energy, now is the time to get one. MRE solar energy systems now come with battery storage for zero money down. This means that your home will have power even when the island power isn't available, like during power outages or during and after storms. The inconvenience of not having power for your home is a thing of the past. Don't be left in the dark. Call 632-2613 for a free consultation. MRE, the smarter choice.
On March 9th, join Bank of Guam for the EFIT Run and Block Party to benefit Guam Cancer Care and American Cancer Society. Our Sunset 2K and 5K run will start at Chamorro Village with showtime at 4 and go time at 5. And don't forget about our block party starting at 4 o'clock, complete with food trucks, a kids zone, live entertainment, and a beer garden, so don't forget your ID. This is a bring your own water bottle event. The EFIT Run and Block Party, Saturday, March 9th. Bank of Guam, member FDIC.
Now, more Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie. Spitting truth like watermelon seeds at a summer picnic. Call now, 888-TALK, 888-8255. And now, sitting in for the vacationing Bob Klitzkie, here's Daryl Taggarty.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, Nate Horn on Facebook Live says, pure coincidence. I'm just talking about the gas prices. Pure coincidence. Nothing to see here, folks. Keep moving. Keep moving. Yeah, right. Yeah, thank you, Nate. You see it. I see it. There's a lot of people see it. We're all putting gas in our cars. What's going on with the federal law enforcement? The people who actually have the job to look at these things. I guess they don't buy their gas off base. Maybe they go on base and they buy it there. And if that's the case, you know, we're just left to fend to ourselves. You know, we've had even had some AG candidates say they're going to go into this, and then it didn't go anywhere. So that's why I think it has to be a federal investigation, because it's federal antitrust. You know, or elected attorneys general don't want to poke donors. You know. It's the money for the campaign is too important, or watch out for my friend over here. You know, Guam is too small to be having this kind of discussion. No competition. You know, we there's some rules of the game that we kind of take for not take for granted, but that we understand to be the rules of the game. And if the markets don't work, as free markets, then it's a sham. And if it's a sham, who's maintaining the sham? You know, it's not. If it's not a free market, then who's running the show here? Who's pulling money out of our pockets and is allowed to pull money out of our pockets, not for value, but for the sake of maintaining business health. You know, you've heard of corporate welfare. I'm not saying this is an example, but that's another example of where governments provide benefits to businesses in order to dispense favors. You know, we can't afford to businesses too big to fail, or it's too important to allow a business to go down simply because it didn't calculate its risk properly. Or, they didn't buy insurance, so let's not penalize them when they can't cover their obligations. We'll just go ahead and let the victims eat it, because there's more of them than there is of the company. Or, let's go ahead and give them some free land so that they can have their business, because these are really good guys. But no, the other guy, no, he can't, because we don't know him. He's not part of our, we don't know him as well. So we shouldn't be giving land to him. He's got to stand in line with everyone else. But this guy, we already know him. We went to school with him, so we know he's all right. And he'll do a good job with it. Sometimes that works out. Sometimes it's true. It's okay. But that's hell of a way to run a railroad. You know, and we haven't had railroads here in the Marianas since the 1940s. So, but the railroads still run. I saw a letter to the. I think that's not coming up until tomorrow. So let's leave that. Can't have that because it's that's for tomorrow. It was already posted online, but it didn't appear in your newspaper today. And I was digging back over some stuff from the past couple of weeks, where maybe I attached it to something that I've already put away. And it's still listed here. And that is having to do with taking advantage of the home healthcare system of the Veterans Administration. And I think I may have inadvertently put that totally away. And that's too bad, because I wanted to bring that to you. Maybe I can do that after the news. It's probably here somewhere. Is this it? No. You saw it, and we'll I'll go ahead and dig it up during the break, because I know I've got it in some of my past materials, and so we're getting there. We're getting there. 888-8255. Those of you who have something on your mind today, it's a beautiful day. You want to talk about how the sun is shining and the all is well, and there's no real reason to have to talk about problems. And yeah, there are, I've been checking out some other some of the talk show programs around on our radio and on there's even some that are online and whatnot, and they seem to go light every now and then. Let's talk about this place over here that's selling these kinds of adult toys or something, that everyone needs a pick me up, and so you send somebody a rose that's made of some kind of hard candy or something that's but it looks like a rose, or it's clear, and all it is like a sugar candy, but it's like a lollipop, but it's in the shape of a rose, and you can just have fun eating it that way, things like that. But I don't live my life like that. If I'm gonna do something to make me feel good, I'm gonna sit down and listen to some good music. I'm gonna go ride my bike on a beautiful day like today. Maybe just get on the ladder, go up on the roof, and let the breeze blow through my hair, and take a look at the world from a little different perspective. Drive out to some nice overlook, sit down and have a beer. That kind of a thing. Or go sit down with my boys and see what they're doing. Just go look at them and see what they're doing, and just sit and observe and let them tell me what's interesting them at that point in time. Pushing my wife to do some baking, stuff like that. And we can talk about all that kind of stuff too if you want. Right now it's a minute before 5 o'clock. Time for our halftime show. We've got Fox News coming up, and then after that we've got our stirring halftime entertainment, and then when that is done, we will be back with Tall Tales for a Friday afternoon here on The Point.
The Point is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam, 93.3 FM and 104.3 HD3.
Will they meet again? I'm Jack Callahan, Fox News. President Trump says he wouldn't rule out another meeting with Kim Jong-un after the Hanoi summit ended prematurely in a disagreement over lifting sanctions. The president telling Fox's Sean Hannity.
I have a feeling something down the line will happen, and it'll happen. It'll be good.
Kim Jong-un, though, finding it difficult to understand why the Hanoi summit collapsed, according to his vice foreign minister, who says Chairman Kim may have lost his will to continue North Korea-U.S. dealings. Fox's John Roberts reports it's too soon to tell what will happen next.
Typically, it would be unthinkable for a U.S. president to fly halfway around the world to negotiate with a foreign leader, only to watch the entire thing fall apart. But there really is no playbook for the type of negotiations that are going on now with North Korea. It's always been done at the deputies level and then rises to the top. Now it's being done from the top down. The deputies make suggestions, but it's the two leaders who negotiate with each other when they get together.
We don't know yet what he said because the testimony was behind closed doors, but former Trump attorney Michael Cohen met for several hours with the House Intelligence Committee for the third straight day of congressional testimony on Thursday. Committee Chair Adam Schiff says a Russian-born executive who worked for the Trump Organization will appear at a public hearing next month to testify about the president's efforts to build a skyscraper in Moscow. The bill to roll back the president's emergency declaration at the southern border, introduced into the Senate by two Democrats and two Republicans, that is, including Maine Senator Susan Collins.
It would reverse the president's ill-advised decision to declare a national emergency and commandeer funding provided for other purposes by Congress.
The president says he'll veto that bill if the Senate sends it to him. It's already been cleared by the House. This is Fox News.
Every time I travel, there's something from home that I can't leave without. I take my Docomo Pacific Data to Go to share my stories in Taiwan, check subway routes in Tokyo, be my food guide in Hong Kong, meet new friends in the Philippines, make updates in the States, find my way around Korea, and check out all the cool shows in Singapore. It's the data I have in all the places I love for only $10 a day. Data to Go from Docomo Pacific. Better together.
Shrimp and guacamole for Lent at Subway. The all-new shrimp and guacamole combines generous portions of whole shrimp and a spread of guacamole served on freshly baked bread, paired with vegetables cut fresh daily in restaurants and sauces that are sure to excite your taste buds. Hurry in, it's only available for a limited time. Other fresh Lenten flavors include the classic tuna or the mouth-watering greatness of our seafood sensation. Don't forget the Veggie Max, a delicious and tasty vegetarian patty. Visit any of our convenient locations today. At Subway, you make it what you want.
The House has passed another gun control measure.
The House approved a measure extending the review time for a background check on firearms purchases from 3 days to 10. It closes what supporters call the Charleston loophole after a gunman killed 9 worshipers at the Emmanuel AME Church in that city after a faulty background check allowed him to buy the weapon after a 3-day review expired. Earlier this week, the Democratic-controlled House advanced a bill requiring federal background checks for nearly all gun sales and transfers. Neither are expected to get a vote in the Senate. Both would be vetoed, the White House says. On Capitol Hill, Jared Halpern, Fox News.
Benjamin Netanyahu's chief challenger in the upcoming elections is calling on the Israeli prime minister to resign to fight corruption allegations. Benny Gantz saying the prime minister cannot be a part-time job and Netanyahu should conduct his legal battle as a private citizen. Netanyahu, indicted on corruption charges, says he'll not quit. Pakistan's Civil Aviation Authority says the country's airspace remains closed for all domestic and international flights because of the continuing tensions with neighboring India. But Pakistan's decision to return a downed fighter pilot from a confrontation 2 days ago seen as a gesture of peace. Despite what a past study implied, federal health officials say they found no link between flu shots and miscarriages.
The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention said this week that an analysis of several recent flu seasons showed no risk of miscarriages for women who've received yearly flu shots. 2 years ago, a study showed that between 2010 and 2012, women who miscarried had likely gotten consecutive yearly doses of the vaccine, but more study was ordered. Guidelines on the CDC's website advocate for pregnant women to be vaccinated against the flu, saying the shot can be received during any trimester of the pregnancy and that a good safety record has resulted.
Fox's Gernal Scott. I'm Jack Callahan. This is Fox News.
Laddystone Entertainment and the stations of Choice Broadcasting present a roaring 20s party. Great Gatsby style. Get dressed up and party with the Miss and Mrs. Kirby Guam contestants. Saturday, March 2nd at Roots Bar and Grill. Tickets are $10 or $15 at the door with one free drink. Special thanks to Pitbull Empire, Local Promos, One Punch Media, The Hive, and Island Lux.
On March 9th, join Bank of Guam for the EFIT Run and Block Party to benefit Guam Cancer Care and American Cancer Society. Our Sunset 2K and 5K run will start at Chamorro Village with showtime at 4 and go time at 5. And don't forget about our block party starting at 4 o'clock, complete with food trucks, a kids zone, live entertainment, and a beer garden, so don't forget your ID. This is a bring your own water bottle event. The EFIT Run and Block Party, Saturday, March 9th. Bank of Guam, member FDIC.
And welcome back to Tall Tales. I'm Daryl Taggarty, sitting in for the vacationing Bob Klitzkie. He will be back in 6 days. 6 days. Yeah. Before the break, I was talking about, mentioning to you about an article that appeared in the Pacific Daily News, and it was written by Bill Condiff and put out back on the 25th. And it is entitled, Take Advantage of VA Home-Based Primary Care. And this is something that actually is a benefit that my own family is using, taking advantage of, because of the eligibility. And I don't know what the alternatives would be. This family member has plenty of various insurances, right? Gov Guam Retirement. He's got TRICARE, and he has Medicare. But the VA, let's go ahead and bring to you this article, and we'll see if this resonates with you. There are so many different VA offices on Guam, and all of them have their forte. They have their responsibility of something that in particular that they are addressing. And so, unlike some comments that you've heard in the past about, let's just have one VA thing. You can't. You've got the governor's office VA is supposed to be helping a certain way. Then the CBOC is supposed to be helping a different way. And then the congressman's office is supposed to be helping a different way. And each one is designed to fill a gap in the way that veterans' benefits are handled, services provided, because the core VA program does not run really that as well as it could, put it that way. And that's why we have the local offices. But let me go ahead and see what Bill Condiff has to say, what he wrote to the PDN last week. The VA home-based primary care program is managed by Kevin Hitosis and his team of specialists. They are doing such a wonderful job taking care of 50 to 60 of our veterans, families, and caregivers. Thank you so much. Hitosis' team of specialists consists of primary care providers, nurses, social workers, rehabilitation therapists, dietitians, pharmacists, and mental health professionals. Some team members may have multiple HBPC team assignments. Team members work interdependently in assessing, planning, problem-solving, decision-making, and implementing team tasks. The goals of the home-based primary care program. He's got the HBPC, home-based primary care program. The goals of the HBPC program are provide home-based primary care targeted to frail, chronically ill, or disabled veterans who require interdisciplinary health care teams for continuity and coordination of care, as well as integration of diverse services to address complex medical, psychosocial, rehabilitative, behavioral, or palliative care needs. These veterans require comprehensive, longitudinal, interdisciplinary home care services to maximize or maintain function, minimize institutionalization, and maintain quality of life. Reduce the need for and provide an acceptable alternative to hospitalization, nursing home care, emergency, and outpatient visits. This is achieved through longitudinal care that provides close monitoring, early intervention, and promotion of a safe, therapeutic home environment through coordinated home and community-based services. Recognize the important role of the caregiver and provide support to the veteran and caregiver in coping with all aspects of chronic disease, including assessment and intervention that addresses caregiver burden. Enhance the veteran's quality of life through the end of life by respecting the needs and preferences of the veteran and caregiver, addressing symptom management and supporting the option of dying with palliative care at home, if that is the veteran's wish. In addition, the team may provide initial bereavement care to the caregiver with community referral for formal or longer-term bereavement support and counseling if needed. Promote an enduring network of qualified home care professionals by providing an academic and clinical setting that allows for research and training in interdisciplinary delivery of primary care in the home. Home-based primary care providers, home-based primary care provides personalized, proactive, patient-driven care. The unit of care is the patient and the caregiver if present. Their needs and preferences guide both the goals and plan of care. To qualify for the program, veterans must enroll with the VA Community-Based Outpatient Clinic. That's the CBOC. You know the CBOC. The assigned doctor will make the initial evaluation and, if the veteran is qualified, referral will be made to Hitosis and his team. A comprehensive evaluation will be made by the HBPC team to determine services required, which may include other VA service providers as well as medical service providers in the community. It is highly recommended that veterans register to receive VA care services. It's an important program that veterans may need someday. For more information about the VA HBPC, the home-based primary care program, call Hitosis at 475-0061 or 0062. Bill Cundiff, the author of this piece, is a retired Air Force Chief Master Sergeant and a resident of Agate. Well, it's a great article. And I'll tell you what, I am one of those caregivers, and my father is one of those patients. And it is a wonderful program. And it's notable in that it's home-based and interdisciplinary. It includes the provision of respite care workers, so I can actually leave the house and do something else, whether it's to come in here and do this show or go to the store and buy some things, because I am the primary caregiver. My dad is in studio with me right now, in fact, because on Fridays I don't have any coverage. Although my dad can go to a center, which is run by Public Health, it closes by 6 o'clock. So as long as I'm doing Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, I can't be out of here in time to pick him up. So they're very flexible. But the primary care doctor comes to the house, and a nurse will check, and the pharmacist will call. And if there is an issue, they are available. This doesn't mean that I don't have to take my dad to the emergency room or to the hospital or to an appointment. But if possible, the appointment can be scheduled in the home because of that physician. It's a team, a medical team. And the way I remember this in the past was this is the same as under the naval government when they had the public health native nurses going out to homes and checking on people with chronic disease, expectant mothers, people who needed wounds, the dressings changed so they wouldn't have to travel from Jotnya to the Naval Hospital. This is back in the late 1940s because my mother was one of those nurses trained by the Navy after the war. And then we had public health that had outreach services back in the 70s where my mother was also a nurse, where she would go out and she would provide health education class at the school in the area and do other kinds of outreach to go out and visit to provide prenatal care and counseling to known eligible expectant mothers in the village of Barragata. She was Barragata McNeil. These kinds of outreach services were provided for by the government, and they were proactive, and they were services being delivered, not waiting until people have to bundle up in a car and come into the emergency room at GMH. And that's something that's missing from our system now. And the VA, the letter from Bill Cundiff explaining a program that my father participates in, and I participate in as a caregiver, points out how these things can be done. But is it happening in Gov Guam? Is it happening by the health clinics? Is it happening in a way that is appropriate? I don't know. Have you heard of it? Do any of you know about this happening elsewhere? And if there's only 50 or 60 veterans participating with the numbers of veterans that we have on island, are any of them slipping through the cracks because they don't know or the family members don't know? And that's, you know, when services are available, but the communication is not, it's a real problem. That's why Bill is asking for people to call. If you know of somebody who's eligible for these services and can avail of home-based primary care, and by all means, contact Dr. Hitosis at 475-0061. He was just over at the house this past week. And so thank you, Bill, for your article to the Pacific Daily News. Any thoughts on that? Go ahead and give me a call. I was, let's see. My pen's drying up here. I'm talking too long and not having there we go. Okay. Let's see. You guys must be all, I don't see the phone ringing. You must be listening carefully, or you're all off at, you know, looking at the sunset or something. There was another article I came across which seemed to have a resonance as you read it, you start thinking, oh, wow, why is this so much like Guam? Why is it like this? And it was an article that appeared in PDN on Sunday, the 24th of February. It was called Inanities from the Malacañang. Inanities from the Malacañang. And it reads like this. Inanities have been coming out of Malacañang. It is as if President Duterte and the people around him have nothing else to do. There is a silly idea of changing the name of our country to Maharlika. It was the late President Ferdinand Marcos who first suggested it. He was, as we all know, infatuated with the word Maharlika. This was how he called his guerrilla unit during the Japanese occupation. He even wanted to name the highway extending to Mindanao Maharlika, but it became Marcos Highway. The fact that Marcos abandoned the idea of renaming the Philippines should convince Duterte this is not a good idea to begin with. Can you imagine what would happen if we were suddenly to be known as Maharlika? Our Philippine banknotes would be demonetized, and our agencies and buildings would have to be renamed. If we changed our name to Maharlika, I wonder if I would have to change my surname as well. Jurado, Emil Jurado's the author, is Spanish meaning judge. There's also that plan of the Presidential Communications Operations Office to have a caravan all over Europe to explain why Maria Ressa was arrested for cyber libel and to insist that the Duterte administration did not violate press freedom. Does Secretary Martin Adenauer want another junket? This will cost us taxpayers a lot of money. This is ridiculous. If the EU countries continue to believe that press freedom was violated, then that is their problem. This is not the change we are clamoring for. As far as I am concerned, the greater tragedy is the deterioration of the moral fabric of our society. And now it's nearing election time again, and we can all see that candidates with the lowest regard for moral standards. 3 pesos per voter. Republic Act 9006, or the Fair Elections Act, mandates candidates for national office like the Senate to spend no more than 3 pesos per voter. Since there are 61.8 million registered voters, the most that candidates can spend is 185.4 million pesos for their campaign. But according to the findings of the Philippine Center for Investigative Journalism and confirmed by the Commission on Elections, close to 20 senatorial candidates have already spent a combined 2.4 billion pesos to prop up their respective campaigns. Sadly, the COMELEC has neither the power nor means to determine where these candidates are getting their funding. But, my gulay, the law is clear about the limits of campaign spending. In other words, some senatorial aspirants are already violating the law. To think that the findings were made before February 13, the official start of the campaign period. According to the Philippine Center for Investigative Journalism, the 2.4 billion pesos has gone to television, radio, print, and outdoor advertising last year alone. Top spenders were Bong Go with 422.5 million pesos, Jaime Marcos, 413.1 million pesos, and Mar Rojas with 401 million pesos. Harry Roque had already spent 174 million pesos before deciding to quit the race. Maybe the most they're supposed to spend is 185 million. Several questions arise. The salary that a senator will receive for the entire 6-year term will only total 18.7 million pesos, or 1/10 of the allowable amount. So how does a lawmaker recover the funds he or she has spent? Of course we know that part of the campaign funds come from donors. The candidates can always claim it was their contributors who sprung for the campaign. Do we really think that the COMELEC can disqualify Bongo, the president's favorite candidate? President Duterte has warned local government units against using government resources in favor of any candidate. What a joke. Do you think the administration favorites like Go, Bato de la Rosa, and Francis Tolentino pay their own way during sorties? I guess trips. Or, out campaign trips. Do they spring for the performers, lunches and dinners, and the transportation of the people who attend their rallies? It's customary for the local government units to spend for everything. This is a distinct advantage of being allied with the administration. Ask anybody who has gone through a national campaign. This is also why some enterprising barangay leaders sell crowd support to candidates. Does that sound anything like Guam? It's not like we're like our politicians are studying the ways of Philippine politics. It's just the sort of a similar way of making excuses, cutting corners, acting as if there's no oversight or, standards of decency or requirement to live up to an oath of office. So I wanted to read that article. That was Inanities from the Malacanang by Emil Jurado, courtesy of the Manila Standard, and reprinted in the Sunday, February 24th, Pacific Sunday News. Yes, indeed. I just thought that was interesting. It's a good parallel for corruption and political doublespeak, especially on the potential of unaccounted for special interest revenues such as gambling and the Airbnbs. And you might want to throw in there the lukewarm enthusiasm for collecting taxes, especially from some people who like sell cigarettes. I'm just, why would we press them to do that? These are, the processes of our own government where political considerations interfere with the otherwise straightforward implementation, execution of the laws. And so, I guess I'm going to have to pull out some really controversial stuff for you. And that's coming up after our break in a couple of minutes. I can talk about socialism. If any of you have been paying attention to the discussions in the United States, there is a fear of socialism that is growing, and it's being trumpeted that we have to watch out for socialism, the rise of socialism in the United States as a political movement, and there are some indications that socialism is on the rise, and that people are ready to throw out their freedoms in favor of the nanny state. Just take care of us. Just go ahead and make the decisions, and we'll go ahead and go along with you as long as you're going to give us everything, promise us everything, give us everything we want, like universal health care or, hey, you're on Guam. Look at this. We're trying to figure out where to get the money to pay for everything that anyone who walks into GMH might need without having to pay for it. You think that it's coming? Maybe it's already here. Real Joe, I have a question for you.
Go ahead, sir.
And I would like to ask if you're interested in hearing one good thing about higher taxes.
Give it your best shot.
It makes you pay attention to how they're being spent.
That's true. I think everyone's paying attention right now.
Yes, that's right. And that's a good thing about raising taxes. That's what you get for your tax money. You get a bit of pain, and that pain, especially if it's persistent. You don't want the quiet taxes. You want the taxes that you see all the time. That's why gross receipts taxes or the business privilege taxes are so named. So you don't see that tax on your receipt when you go to the store.
Yeah, true.
That's been that's been sort of like it when you roll it back, that's one of the real reasons why it's not rolled forward to become a sales tax.
True.
And also, just think of how you would go to what would be the procedure? How would the United States Postal Service set up to provide for the Guam Customs people? As you pick up your package at the post office, you have to tear it open and let the customs guy look at it, and then you got to pay the user fee. Like when you bring in cargo at the airport, you got to open it up. They look at the contents and they say what was the value of this thing? Okay, 4%. Go pay down at the window 2 miles away.
Man,
I'll give you
would,
a window.
That would take away the whole process of saving money because you're ordering and not buying it on Guam.
It just means the post office has to redesign its floor plan.
You're
so
right.
that you got a Guam when you walk out of the Guam main facility, you have to go through customs. You're out of Guam and then you have to come back into Guam zone.
True. I kind of like what George Bush said. The first George Bush said, "No new taxes."
Yeah, he said, "Read my lips."
Read my lips.
Yeah, read my lips.
I like that, but you're right. Higher taxes, open eyes.
yeah, but there's other ways to raise taxes and pay for the services that we want, that we expect. But doesn't it frost your behind to have to realize that these taxes are not, first off, they're promised to just any Tom, Dick, and Harry that walks in the hospital. That's okay. We don't want them walking on the street with running sores, broken bones, and communicable diseases, right? But it also goes for those dialysis and all that other good stuff. And never mind having to pay for it. Never mind, because taxpayers are gonna. We've got our elected officials and our brains working on how to figure out how to squeeze it out of the federal government. Yeah, like the H-2B decisions, they're going to squeeze. Do they even feel the squeeze? It's like a tickle. My goodness, I think we might have gotten somebody to the phones. But I tell you, we are. We can talk about socialism in Venezuela, but let's take a break here first for our seventh inning stretch. I guess maybe my coffee's kicking in, but seventh inning stretch, and we'll be back in just a few minutes with more Tall Tales.
Experience the Take Care difference. Take Care members can count on accessing a high-quality, credentialed network of on-island providers, including the convenient one-stop FHP Health Center and urgent care, access to an extensive off-island network of providers, and the island's largest offering of free fitness classes and health education programs. You can count on Take Care to deliver comprehensive, accredited insurance coverage and quality health care when and where you need it. Take Care. Our island, your health plan. Learn more at takecareasia.com.
Yeah, that's knock it out of the park. That'll get you going. How many of you have gone to baseball games? I used to go. I used to go watch the Orioles at Old Memorial Stadium back in the early '80s in Baltimore, and that was fun. I still got my pennant and my shirt, my cap. It's with the old logo, not the new logo, the one that's more rounded. Of the Baltimore Oriole. Do we have a caller on line one? All right. Let's see what's shaking on the telephones here. Welcome to Tall Tales.
This is Tom again. May I
Tom.
you for a minute?
Sure. Hey, Tom.
Anyway, if it's up to me, I would increase the taxes on things that causes people to have bad health. And that in turn increases the cost of health insurance and the cost of the operating the hospital. Things like alcohol. I want to raise the tax of alcohol. That way, if I raise it to a point where people cannot afford to buy beer anymore, so be it. It's better for their health anyway if they don't drink beer. And I want to increase the tax on cigarette even more. And if they cannot afford to buy cigarettes, that's even better. It's better for their health. It's better for everybody. And also, I want to increase the taxes on luxury food items like a leg of ham. Those are processed foods. The preservative that they're putting into these things is what's causing people to get intestinal cancer. The sodium nitrate that they use as a preservative. That is what's causing all of these problems about people getting intestinal cancer, rectal cancer, and even diabetes, you know. I know we love Spam so much, but we got to force people to cut down it because they're also using sodium nitrate as a preservative for Spam and corned beef, canned corned beef. I want to encourage people to use fresh food, like fresh meat, and cut the fat out of the meat and eat lean meat. And I want people to start eating poultry, turkey, chicken, and remove the skin out of the chicken and remove all the fat out of the chicken. And you know, our health insurance industry can also step into this and force people to live healthy by giving a discount to their insurance premium that people pay if they can prove that this person has enrolled in an exercise program. Like if they sign up for the Paradise Fitness Center, for example, bring in their membership card to the insurance that is carrying their health, you know, and they'll get a discount. That's one way of improving the health of the island. Like you said, there's just too many people on dialysis on this island right now. And it's because diabetes, and people are getting diabetes left and right because they are eating bad food. So, and our government can also step into this and say, okay, if you know, they could come up, if you register for all of these run-walk events that we have, you will get a discount on your premium on your health insurance. Things like that our government can do if they have enough imagination, you know.
Well,
right now, the dialysis centers have been overwhelmed, and that's what's causing all of these health insurance premiums to go. You know, the people that are taking care of their health that don't hardly ever get sick, we wind up paying high insurance premium because of the other people that just don't want to exercise.
Well, not only do the premiums go to providing that care for others. That's the idea of insurance, is to have a pool of people paying in, and then it becomes like an actuarial or a statistical thing. How many people are going to come in for services? And it's a bet. It's like a form of gambling. I'll bet you this amount of money that I won't have to use, that I won't use that money, you know, for the year. And it's the insurance company that kind of plays with it. And then some years they're ahead, some years they're behind. But generally, it's a pretty profitable business. And you're right on everything you've said. But it's not as easy to give different premiums. And the reason is, you know, like, or discounts for people doing right, because they're the ones that have to pay for the ones who are chronically ill. And if people who are chronically ill become rejected from the insurance, or chronic or pre-existing, if they get rejected from the insurance, then they fall back onto taxpayers directly. And if you don't, and if the taxpayers don't pick it up directly, then you're going to start seeing people dying of these diseases. You're going to see the death rate going up, and it's going to be because the stinginess of the taxpayers. But what you're proposing sounds like socialism, socialized medicine. There's a political movement to push back against anything that's going to restrict or restrict the way that money moves into and out of any economic sector. They want it to be just left up to whatever the technology is, whatever seems to be making money, and let the market be the one that handles it. But the government is already so big of a part of paying for health care. It's a customer because it buys the health insurance. It provides the benefit to its employees. It administers public hospital and public health centers, and it runs the MIP. It funds an MIP. It funds the hospital shortfall. It runs the federal Medicare system locally. But they don't seem to take that power and use it to massage the system so that it becomes more effective, cheaper for the expenses for the taxpayer. And
the auto insurance companies have a good idea where they reward good drivers. If a driver hasn't had an accident for so many years, they get a discount when they renew their insurance. You know, and also there are companies that are always giving discounts to people that have never received speeding tickets also, you know, et cetera, et cetera. Why can't our health insurance companies do that also?
Well, there is no requirement. I mean, there is a requirement to have have car insurance, right? But just how many years have we been talking about how many people are picked up on the road driving without insurance? It's a lot. If they put a drag net, you're going to pick up maybe 20% of the drivers out there have no insurance. They're out there with expired tags, no driver's license, no car insurance. They went and signed up for it, and then they didn't bother making the payments, and they're not even covered. You know, that kind of thing has been going on, and while it's revoked, then what happens? They go back out and drive again. But with health, they show up at the hospital and they say, yeah, my health insurance company dropped me, or I couldn't afford the premiums, or no, I was working and now I'm not working, but I don't qualify for the insurance, and you guys aren't going to take away my house, so I'm not worried about that. But here I am for the service. I'm here for you to treat me at the hospital because there's a requirement to treat, but there's no requirement to pay. And also because they're not going to come after me because they don't know what they're doing over here on the other side of the building. You know, this is what's coming out. Is it's not the cost of the health care. It's the inability to get a handle on the cost of health care so that we know what we're paying for. And you are so right on so many of the counts, on so many items that you were saying, Tom. It's and even what Richard Fee was saying.
Either, you know.
Did you know?
I want people to work and earn their money, not just get it for, you know, I don't want people getting things for free. I want them to earn what they get.
What about?
I want them to work for it.
What about the people who are working now, hard working in the tourism industry, but because they're working less than 32 hours for each of their 3 jobs, they don't have health insurance?
We can do that as a community if we put our foot down and force. Somebody has got to step in that has knowledge enough, and let's get all of these private employees unionized. Imagine if we have all of those hotel workers under a union, where if their employer, if a hotel refuses to give them health insurance, they could go on strike, and that hotel can go broke. Because if the workers are not there to serve the tourists ain't going to go to that hotel anymore.
No, that is one approach. The other one,
get people this union over here.
You see, do you remember when Governor Calvo opted not to participate in the Obamacare program some time back?
Yeah.
Remember that? And it wasn't that we got the full Obamacare program. We just kind of got part of it. And so he was saying, no, this is not worth it. It's not worth it to us to pursue this. But it seems to me that if somebody was, and he should know because his brother is running the Select Care, but it seems to me that they should know what would be the right balance of participation to get the money in and get the federal assistance in. That $264 million we can't afford to spend now, but because that came from the Obamacare that we would have been getting over a period of years if we had accepted it back then, but now it's in this big glut that we can't absorb. But if we were to have used that leverage, but it was rejected for for political reasons, that we didn't want to sign on to Obamacare because it was Obamacare and it wasn't a health insurance project that was politically desirable. Now, and maybe even at the time, maybe that was a good decision, but in retrospect, it wasn't. Tom, can I go to another caller here? Do you mind?
Yeah, go ahead, buddy. I'll be listening on the air. Okay,
Yeah.
thanks for calling up.
Yeah, thank you for calling, and have a good weekend. Okay, caller on line 2, thank you. Welcome to Tall Tales.
Hey, afternoon or evening, Daryl. How you doing?
Is this Mark?
Yep.
Hello, Mark. Welcome back to Tall Tales. Doing all right.
Hey, yeah, good. First, I'll say I don't have a dog in the fight on whatever they do. 'Cause even though I work for GovGuam, I do not have their health insurance.
Oh, that's a good thing.
Yeah, I have the other house.
Right.
Called TRICARE.
Mm-hmm.
So, a couple things that just blow me away on this is they're trying to say that the government employees can have the choice to go, they want them to be able to go to GRMC if that's where they want to go.
Okay.
Well, what about the private sector employees? Their health insurance may not have that GRMC option.
Right. Those
So we're treating.
Yeah, those companies that like when I was with Bob Kelly's company, we had a Guam Contractors Association insurance, and they signed on with FHP. And if I was on that insurance right now with FHP, I would not be able to go to GRMC for anything because there's no relationship. That's what you're describing.
Exactly. So here we're taking the GovGuam employees and saying they are now better and will be better than the private sector.
No, that was negotiated by the private sector, and it was one. That was one. The Guam Contractors Association negotiated for the package, and they took bids, and they chose a package with the pricing. And then they said, okay, this is what's available. If you want to join our health insurance, this is what you get. But then to the individual employees that were covered, that would be covered, they, in some cases, like I had to leave my doctor and go over to FHP Clinic because my doctor was not signed on as an affiliate, as a subscriber to FHP. And so FHP would not allow me to go to my doctor.
Okay, but Daryl, my point is there's no mandate that private sector employees, when they go for health insurance or their employers, deal with GRMC.
That's right. It's a private matter.
So now we're saying the government employees are going to have that right because it will be mandated by law.
That's not actually even what the law says is this is the instruction to the negotiators at during the next round of negotiations for health insurance coverage.
Right. So if company A doesn't have an agreement with GRMC and submits a packet, they don't get to be considered, but company B will.
That was what they were trying to address with that bill, with
Right.
Bill 30. Right.
So my point is there's no mandate for private carriers or private employers or, the private sector to have that for their employees. So we're now saying the government employees are better than the private employees.
No.
They will have the option of whether to go to GMH or GRMC. And because it's not been negotiated by their private employer because they don't have to, they don't have it.
But it's not a matter of better or not. It's a policy of whether the investor in the private hospital that the government itself extended the invitation to invest in Guam, to put a private hospital at the time when GMH was so shaky that we were thinking, do we need to build another hospital? Do we need to stop providing hospital services and throw it to private sector completely? There was a question before that hospital was built. There was a question about the numbers of patients that could not be addressed at either Naval Hospital or Guam Memorial Hospital that needed to go off island for care, and if they were not stable enough to go, that was it. They did not have these health services. Since GRMC was built and staffed, now Naval Hospital and GMH are sending patients over to GRMC. But there's one health insurance company that will not refer its patients because they are objecting. Whatever their private beef is, whether it's because they don't agree with the fees, they can't negotiate a discount that works for that particular health insurer, then they don't have a relationship with GRMC. And all that is a competitive matter. If people want, if a person who seeks health insurance wants to get health insurance that includes GRMC so they don't have to go off island for the services that are available in Dededo, then they can switch to that health insurance. But FHP, Take Care, was trying to use its leverage on that 16% of the GovGuam employees to leverage itself to possibly be a sole provider for all 100% of GovGuam employees and completely cut out GRMC in the process. And that's too much of a jag to policy. It's not that GovGuam employees are better, but we could take an investment and throw it totally on the rocks without that Bill 30 being passed. And I'll mention another wrinkle afterwards. So you want to hang on?
I can.
Okay, hang on through the break, and we'll come back to this. Okay, Mark?
Okay.
Save big. Save really big when you bundle up your insurance policies with Nanbo Insurance. Insure your home, auto, motorcycle, or business with Nanbo and enjoy great savings, up to 50%. When it comes to insuring your property, no one knows better than the company with over 50 years of service to the community. Don't compromise the things that matter to you most. Call Nanbo today at 477-9754 or visit nanbo.com for more information. Nanbo Insurance, serving you since 1968.
Okay, Mark, you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay.
My point, Daryl, is this. They're mandating now that in order, this gets signed into law, that if you want to provide health insurance for GovGuam employees, you must include GRMC.
Yes.
But there is not a like mandate for the private sector.
No, because you can't.
Right. So I guess my point is, and it's going into what, and I agree with what you're saying, that if you as a person want to have the ability to go to GMH or GRMC, then go with the carrier that has it. I don't think it should be forced upon and mandated by law that occur.
Well, what would happen? This is what Bill 30 truly addressed, and that is going into the negotiations during the summer. If they follow what I think is a law that was passed a couple of years ago, that GovGuam will now start soliciting for only one company, one health insurance company to have.
It's in the financial interest of the government to have only one carrier, yes.
And that was something that was pointed out by Speaker B.J. Cruz when he was in the legislature, and that bill got passed. And so right now, they didn't implement it for this year. They just couldn't get themselves wrapped around it, or we were having this problem with FHP and GRMC. And so they rolled over the policy for GovGuam employees for this year, this fiscal year, was a rollover from last year because they weren't able to negotiate and make an award. Now
look what happened. One carrier dropped out.
Well, they can. It's up to them if they want to drop out. Because sometimes
one carrier dropped out. One carrier dropped out.
That's right, but that's business. We're not. But the thing is about the hospital. Okay, that's also a business. But in the case of the healthcare system on Guam, that hospital was invited in. We invited the investment, and it does provide care that previously we were having to go off island for. And it's not like they're required not to compete with GMH, but it is a number of beds, and it is a staffed and objectively compliant hospital that is in, it's physically here. Its doors are open, the power is on, and it is ready for business. And so for the government of Guam to go into the negotiations this summer without having it be clear that FHP can compete and that the hospital will not be a casualty of that negotiation, that bill needed to be passed. I was not in favor of that bill being passed, but there's another thing I wanted to bounce off you and see if it resonates with you.
Well, before you do that, let me give you the one thing that is kind of ironic.
Go ahead. Yeah, please.
The parent company or the parent corporation of GRMC in the Philippines.
Yes.
FHP deals with the hospitals in the Philippines that are the parent company of GRMC.
Well, I've been not real familiar with, but I've had a glimpse into the way that FHP works. And I have been for a very long time, since Ben Pangilinan was working there, before he was a senator. And it has always bothered me. It has always been really, really, really about the money. It is a business out to make money, and there is no shame in that. They don't have a social responsibility. But that having been said, I don't expect them to have changed their stripes, and so it's not about health care. It's about making money. And it would be a play or a ploy for FHP to roll the dice on this and say, no, I'm going to place my bets on GMH only, so that if I win the bid, then I will make sure that the government of Guam puts money into GMH. And even take part in trying to fix GMH, because it is partnered, because it placed its bets on GMH and didn't spread them out to include the private hospital. I'm wondering about how that might have played out if Bill 30 had not been passed. And so I don't know if there's a solution here or if it's just more wrinkle to the issue. But I appreciate the call, Mark. Thank you very much.
All right.
Okay.
Have a good weekend.
You too. And that was Mark, and he's concerned about the benefits to GovGuam employees that are not available to private sector employees. Well, the GovGuam employees have health insurance, and there are thousands of private sector employees who are not insured. I think there's something like, there's 11,000 GovGuam employees that are insured, and then in the private sector, there's something like 4,000 or 5,000. And that's only a quarter of the people in the workforce on Guam. Now, 56,000 in the workforce, only 1/4 have health insurance. And the rest are on self-pay, Medicare, TRICARE, some other kind of care. And ultimately, it comes back around to government of Guam to pay. Well, it's just about 6 o'clock, and we are running into a weekend here. Have a very good weekend, everybody. We'll be back on Monday with more Tall Tales at 4 o'clock on Monday afternoon, and Ray Gibson will be back at 6 a.m. on Monday morning as well with the Ray Gibson Show here on The Point.
The Point is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam, 93.3 FM and 104.3 HD3.
Where they fell short. I'm Jack Callahan, Fox News. President Trump says North Korea was ready to roll back part of its nuclear weapons program in exchange for an end to all U.S. sanctions. The president telling Fox's Sean Hannity that wasn't enough.
I wanted them to denuke, and they wouldn't do the full. They wanted to do some.
The sanctions, he says, remain in place, and he has Kim's word he will not resume nuclear or